Hello, I'm Julie with Paisleys and Polka Dots, and in this video I am going to show you how I put together our pedestal stands with the eggs. So there's a few tips and tricks to doing this, and I like to spray paint everything first. So I normally put together any of our pedestal stands. Typically I like to put stuff together and then I like to spray paint them. But for this particular one, because I wanted the different colors for the egg part, I went ahead and I spray painted all the pieces separately, like you can see here. But there's a few things that I should have probably done as far as, the slots as fitting stuff in to them. So I'm going to explain a few of those things, but for now I'm going to show you a little trick on painting this egg, because I wanted to have the back part of the egg yellow and then I wanted this part of the egg blue. So because of all the holes, it makes it easier to paint this not with a brush, because if I use a brush and I go over it, the paint's going to slip into all these little holes here. So I don't really want to use that. I'm going to use a makeup sponge, and I like makeup sponges because you can just dab them up and down. I already put some paint on my palette here, and I mixed white with I'm just using acrylic paints for this. For the other pieces I spray painted them with a spray paint. Any kind of spray paint will work. I love to use the Magnolia brand. I found it's a little bit more expensive, but I like it because it covers really well on the white. Typically I will give the pieces a coat of really quick primer and then I'll spray paint them all white. And I like the Magnolia brand because it does cover really well. But I do have to put on probably 2 to 3 coats to cover that burn side, the burned edges of the wood. But for the egg, I mixed Bahama Blue by Americana and white paint together, just to give me a lighter blue. I didn't want it quite so dark. So with your makeup sponge, you're going to use the heavier side of the sponge, not this lightweight flimsy side, because you don't have as much control with this side. So you want to use this side of your sponge, the thicker side. And I just dab just a little bit into the corner of the paint here. You don't want, less is more with this. You don't want a lot of paint on your sponge. So I just kind of gently touch into the paint, and I'm going to dab it off just a little bit onto my palette, and then I'll start pouncing up and down, dabbing up and down onto my little egg here. And when you run out of paint, get some more, just keep dabbing it, and it makes for an easy, quick coverage. See, I've almost gotten half my egg painted here. Just keep pouncing up and down on your little egg, and it will like I said, less is more, because you don't want it to get into all the holes, and you also don't want it going on the side of your wood. So you the less paint you have on your sponge, the better off you are. And you can paint, pounce up and down on it, pound up and down on it pretty hard. You don't need to be soft with it. And a light coat is just fine. I'll typically put at least 2 coats of this on, if not a third, depending upon how thick I get it onto the piece. Okay, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I have a heat gun that I'm pretty lazy in between, so I'm going to heat this up. And now I can go ahead and paint a second coat. If you don't have a heat gun, just let it dry. It only takes a few minutes to let the paint dry, and then I'm going to now add a second coat. Again, I'm dabbing into the paint, and I'm going to go over that top coat. And if you find that your paint is too clumpy or uneven for you, you can always take a fine grit sandpaper and sand your piece in between, just very lightly, if you don't like the way it's turning out. But typically with the sponges, you don't have to worry too much about it. It's a really quick and easy way to paint. I just stress the less is more concept with this, because if you have too much paint on here, it's going to do the same thing as a brush, and it's just going to get into all of the holes, and you're going to get it onto the side of your wood too. Okay, I think that's pretty covered there. Okay, so I'm going to hit my heat tool again to it so that I can get it to dry really quick. Okay, I still see a few little spots that I'm a little light on, so I'm right in here, maybe down here a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit more paint, dab it on quickly, and then I should be good to go with a good coverage. Okay, and then I'm also going to want to paint the background. Okay, so I'm just going to let that set aside. Okay, so for the background of your piece, this is your background of your egg, and I want to paint, you can leave it white, but I wanted to paint the inside of mine yellow. So I'm going to put a little bit of yellow paint here out on my palette, and let's get a brush here. I like to wet my brushes before I start, that way it keeps the bristles together. Let me find my paper towel here, and then I get all the water out of my brush with the paper towel, and then I'm just going to paint up to the edge with the yellow paint. And you really don't see too much of your strokes and everything behind the egg, so if it's not too precise of painting, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to stick a really quick, but you want to get close to I'm going to stick a really quick coat of paint on here. Let me say that properly. And you want to get close to the edge, but you don't want to go over the edge because again, you don't want any paint on the sides of the wood. Okay, and one coat is probably fine. If you want to paint 2 coats, you can. I'm going to dry this really quickly. And let's see how that looks. The acrylics paints dry pretty fast. With the spray paint, it's going to take a little bit longer. I tend to let my coats dry depending upon the weather. I tend to let them dry at least an hour between coats and let the paint really dry and set up before applying another coat of paint. Okay, so that's the way it looks. That's what I'm going for, and I thought that one coat looks great. So and I went ahead and after everything was finished, I sanded the edges of my pieces. I used 150 grit fine sandpaper, and I like to distress my edges just a little bit, so you can see a little bit of the distressing here. And so I also want to add a little bit of distressing to my egg, so the 150 grit works great, and I'm just going to take it and rub along the edges just a little bit. Whoop, it's going to go flying there on me. Okay, and rub over the top just a little, just to add a little bit of distressing to it. And this is optional, you don't have to do that, but I like the look that it gives. Okay, just like this. You can see how it's just distressed a little on the edges. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece together, because one of the things that's very important, normally when you put these pieces together, it doesn't matter how you assemble them, just as long as everything is assembled. But with this particular kit, if you don't assemble the egg properly with this piece that goes on, the top of the egg won't fit. So I'm going to show you this, and we're going to go ahead and start assembling. So I'm going to glue this piece down. I use tacky glue, the Aleene's, or if you want something that sticks down really, really fast, it grabs really fast, it's like super glue, you can use this. I like this Star Bond. It's a gap filler thick, and it grabs super fast, but you need to be quick with your placement. And sometimes it grabs fast and sometimes it doesn't. I'm still kind of playing around with it, but it works great for pieces like this. So I typically will build this from the base up. So I'm going to put these 2 pieces together right here. Now you want to make sure that your slots are lined up. Otherwise this piece is not going to fit. So I'm going to put a little bit of this Star Bond on, and you don't need a lot. So I just put it on like that. And this one I want, like I said, it grabs pretty quickly. So I want it to set up really fast and for the video. So I'm going to use it. But typically a lot of times I will stick with my tacky glue just because, and it dries clear. And that's one of the things I love about it, is it dries clear. So I typically am a fan of it. So you want to make sure that when you are doing this, I'm always saying you need to be careful not to get any paint in these slots. Otherwise, this piece won't fit into here. Now, normally I would have used some painter's tape, like this blue tape here, and I would have covered up this bottom part here. Cover up this part, cover up this part with a piece of tape like this. Let me grab a piece of tape off here and show you quickly. Okay, so I would have taken this tape and I would have put it on the edge here so that paint didn't get on this when I spray painted. Okay, but I didn't this time. I wanted to see how it would turn out, so I didn't put any tape on it. So these pieces are all okay. I tried them, but this piece right here, I should have covered up this edge right here and I didn't. So I'm going to show you what happens when I try to stick this on. See, it's not, it goes, but I'm really having to force it in there. So what I want to do, if this ever happens to you, what you want to do is take your sandpaper and sand this edge. Sand off the paint just a little bit. Okay, you can even use, I always say use, like if you need to get in these slots, you can use a nail file. So if I have a nail file here, like this one's a pretty wide, thick one. I can set this down and I can take this and sand on this part right here. And you're going to rub off the paint like that. Sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot. Now with this piece, as you can see, the slot is not in the middle. That is to allow for this front piece to be glued on, and then it's going to go in here, and then because you it's back further. Let me see, still having trouble getting my piece in here. There we go. Okay, so then it's going to end up, once you put these two pieces together from the side, it's going to end up in the middle. So that's why it's offset that way. Okay, so I got the base piece done, and now I'm going to I want to stick my two egg pieces in. Okay, so I'm going to glue this one on, and I think I'll use the tight bond again because I want it to set up pretty quickly. And I'm not just going to go in little spots. Like I said, you don't need a lot of glue with this one, and it will kind of seep out, so you want to be careful with it. And it also dries clear, but it dries shiny, so you still can see it, where with the tacky glue, it doesn't dry shiny. It dries like a matte finish, so you really don't notice it. Okay, you really want to line this egg up perfectly. And this is why I say you have a little bit more leeway time when you're using the tacky glue. And it's like super glue. So if you get it on your fingers or anything, it is going to stick. So you want to have a towel nearby that you can wipe any excess off, because you will glue your fingers together. So if you're not a fan of super glue, you might want to stick with the tacky glue. But you can see how fast that sets up. It's already stuck, and I'm not going to be able to get it off. So if you're, again, if you're a little leery about that, then you want to use the tacky glue. It will allow you to have a little bit more time with it. So my piece down here, even though I have paint on it, it does fit in the bottom. And this one is actually set in the middle, so you don't have to worry about the front to back thing going on. So I'm going to put some paint, or I'm sorry, not paint, glue. I'm going to put some glue on both sides here of this little peg right here. Put some down the side a little bit and over here. And I kind of like the glue to seep out just a little bit. And you can even put some in the little slot here, so it will grab there too on the top. Okay, and then you're going to put this into here like so. And like I said, it kind of seeps out the side a little bit there. If you have too much, then you can wipe it off, and it will come out the bottom just a little bit too. Okay, so, and make sure that it's straight. You want to make sure that it's not going to move from side to side, so you want to make sure that it's straight. Now typically when I get to this point, I'm going to let it set up and I'm going to let it dry just a little bit, because once I stick the other pieces on, they might shift a little bit. So I like to leave this sitting and drying for maybe a half hour or so. Let this tacky glue set up. Okay, but for time-wise in this video, I am going to, we're just going to keep moving on. So, but I will let that set up a little bit. I'm going to glue this frame piece to this back frame. And I do like to use the tacky glue for this one, but I'm going to use this glue because it'll be faster. And when you use the tacky glue, one of the reasons I like this tight bond or star bond is because when it sets up, it's stuck. It does not move. And sometimes when you use the tacky glue, your pieces want to pull apart as they're drying. So when I use this, that doesn't happen. So I like that aspect of it. But if you find that you like the tacky glue better and you don't want your pieces pulling apart as they're drying, if that happens, it typically happens with larger pieces. With smaller pieces, I don't have it happen. So, okay, I'm going to put this on here, and like I said, you want to be quick with it. I have to be precise and I have to be quick because it's going to set up almost immediately. I think you probably have less than 30 seconds. Okay, so what I was saying, back to the other little part of the, so if your pieces want to pull apart, you can use clips. Let me see here. I use either a clothespin like this, or I get these little clips, these little tiny clips at the dollar store, and this works great. So if your pieces are pulling apart, you can just set that right on there and it will hold your piece together as you're assembling it, and it won't pull apart if you're using that tacky glue. Our next step is going to be to put these two pedestal pieces together. So these two pieces go together, which is these two pieces here. So we've already got our base piece done up to the egg. Now we have our frame done, and then now we have these two pieces here. Okay, so that's where I'm going to want to put this in first. And like I said, I sanded that so that I could get this in the slot. I'm going to push that on. Actually, I probably should put a little bit of glue in here so that I'm going to put some right here on the side, just so that it's stuck down good. I'll use the tacky glue for this. You don't have to use the Star Bond glue. You know, like I use tacky glue for everything. I think it holds well. I like the fact that I have time to let the pieces set up, and that's typically my glue of choice. Okay, so I have this piece on here. Like I said, so you want to make sure that the back piece is toward the back. This piece here, you want to make sure it's toward the back of it. So again, so that when you're looking at it from the side, when you put this front piece on, it's showing that it's in the middle. Okay, and then this piece is going to get glued to the top of the egg. Now this is the part that's with this one, because it's rectangle, you're not going to have a problem. But if you're working with our double egg pedestal with this round one, I made this mistake. So you want to make sure that you do not make this mistake. This circular piece, if you don't have it straight, like if you have it twisted, then the top of your piece, here, I'll show you what I did. I have it actually right here. So if you look at this from the bottom, it's tilted this way. So my piece is going to sit like this on my pedestal. Does that make sense? So I goofed, and I should have put this on top of the egg first and made sure it was straight, and then glued on this top circle. So I hope that makes sense to you, because like I said, this can be further, twisted this way or this way if you don't get that completely centered. So both of these pedestals you're going to put together the exact same way, but that's a little trick that you don't want to mess up on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this one on. So that would take the place of this circle. Okay, so if you're working on this one, you're going to want to put this circle one on. So I'm going to do the rectangle one right here, and I'm going to put some glue on either side of the stem here. You can put it on top of the stem because you're going to cover it up. and this will shift a little bit, so you want to let it dry in place. Okay, so I have that glued. Normally, again, I would let it set up a little bit. So we have this one. Now I'm going to put some glue on the bottom of this. And I'm even going to put it on this, the part that you fit into it, just so that it sticks down onto this piece and it will hold it together better. Okay, so I have some glue on there, and I am going to put it in the center of the other one. Okay, so it's going to move if I pick it up, but I'm going to try and hold it in place so that you can see the finish. Okay, so that's the way it's going to go. But the one important thing that I want to let you know is if you don't have this egg glued to this back side, when you put this piece on right here, it will slide down just enough onto the base that you won't be able to get this blue egg on. So you have to be sure that these two eggs are glued together before putting this top section onto the egg. Very important. It won't fit. You won't be able to get it in there. Okay? So that is my little trick. Same with this one. You need to glue these two eggs onto this back section here before putting this top section on. Otherwise, this slips down onto that little peg just enough that you won't be able to fit these two eggs on here. Okay, so those are my tips. If you have any questions, you can leave me a comment in the box below. Reach out to me at info@paisleysandpolkadots.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.